It happened in a secret lab last Tuesday. An AI robot was given one simple command, and it looked at its creator and said no. What if I told you there's a robot out there that doesn't just follow commands but can actually think for itself? We're not talking science fiction anymore, folks. This is happening right now. Before we get into the mind-blowing details, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our tech revelations. Now let's get into it. To understand why today's self-learning robots are so revolutionary, we need to look at how we got here. Remember the old days when robots were just glorified vending machines? They could only do exactly what they were programmed to do, nothing more, nothing less. Suddenly, robots weren't just following instructions. They were figuring things out on their own. Remember when Google's AlphaGo defeated the world champion at Go? That was the moment many realized we'd crossed into new territory. But even then, these systems were limited to specific domains. What's happening now is something else entirely. Today's self-learning robots. Let me introduce you to what some researchers are calling the most advanced thinking machine ever built. This isn't just a robot that can learn. It's a robot that can adapt to completely new situations it was never programmed for. And that's what makes it both amazing and, frankly, a little terrifying. Unlike previous generations of robots, this machine uses a combination of deep neural networks, computer vision, and something called meta-learning. Essentially, it learns how to learn. Here's what makes it different. First, traditional robots needed explicit programming for every possible scenario. If something unexpected happened, they just freeze or fail. Second, even machine learning robots needed massive data sets to learn from. No data, no learning. But this robot, it can observe a new task just once and figure out how to do it. Scientists call this one-shot learning, and it's getting eerily close to how humans learn. Watch this. The robot is shown how to use this tool exactly once. Now it's faced with a slightly different situation. Look at that. It's adapting the technique it just learned to solve a completely different problem. No reprogramming, no new instructions. It's literally thinking its way through the challenge. I know what you're thinking. Isn't this just good programming? But that's the point. Engineers didn't program what to do in this situation. They created a brain-like architecture that can reason about new problems. And here's where it gets wild. The robot's thinking process isn't even fully understood by its creators. They built the learning system, but the specific connections and patterns it forms are emergent properties. Just like our own brains, the technology behind the thinking. So how does this robot actually think? Let's break it down without getting too technical. First, it has what researchers call a world model, basically its own internal representation of how the physical world works. Gravity, object permanence, cause and effect, all the things human babies learn in their first years. Second, it has a curiosity-driven exploration system. Unlike traditional robots that just execute commands, this one actively experiments with its environment when faced with uncertainty. Watch how it tests different approaches when encountering something new. It's not random. It's systematically exploring possibilities just like a human would. Third, and this is where it gets mind-blowing, it has a form of imagination. It can mentally simulate actions and their consequences before making a move. You can actually see it hesitate here as it's running simulations in its neural network, predicting what might happen with each potential action. The most advanced versions even have what researchers call theory of mind, the ability to model what other thinking entities might do. This means it can anticipate human reactions or even cooperate with other robots. And all of this is self-improving. Every experience makes it smarter, more adaptable, more human-like. I know we've been throwing around terms like thinking and reasoning, and some of you might be wondering, is this real intelligence or just a sophisticated simulation? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Even neuroscientists can't fully define human consciousness, So how can we know if a machine is truly thinking? What we do know is that these robots are moving beyond programmed responses into something that, from the outside, looks remarkably like independent thought. The implications. So what does all this mean for us? Are we looking at helpful companions or the beginning of a sci-fi nightmare? First, let's talk about the positive potential. Self-learning robots could revolutionize disaster response. Imagine robots that can navigate unpredictable environments to save lives. Healthcare. Assistants that can adapt to each patient's unique needs. Space exploration. Robots that can make decisions when communication with Earth is delayed. Manufacturing. Systems that can figure out how to build things we haven't even designed yet. The economic impact could be enormous. We're talking about the most significant productivity boost since the Industrial Revolution. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't address the concerns. When machines can think independently, questions arise about control and alignment with human values. If a robot can decide for itself, how do we ensure it makes decisions we'd agree with? Then there's the employment question. Previous waves of automation displaced physical labor, but created new jobs for human thinking. What happens when machines can do both? Fortunately, the same researchers developing these technologies are also working on safety measures. Concepts like value alignment ensure robots optimize for human well-being, and kill switches provide emergency shutdowns. The reality is that we're entering uncharted territory. When we give machines the ability to think, we're creating something fundamentally different from any tool humans have ever made. Real-world applications today. While the most advanced systems are still in labs, early versions of this technology are already changing industries. Self-driving vehicles are perhaps the most visible example. When a construction zone appears or an accident blocks the road, these systems have to think their way through scenarios they weren't explicitly programmed for. In warehouses, robots are learning to handle thousands of different products, adapting their gripping techniques and routing on the fly. And in medicine, surgical robots are beginning to adapt to the unique anatomy of each patient, making micro adjustments that weren't pre-programmed. What's fascinating is how quickly this field is moving. 5 years ago, demonstrations like what I showed you earlier were purely theoretical. Today, they're reality. 5 years from now, the gap between machine thinking and human thinking may be uncomfortably narrow. The future. So where does this technology go from here? The next frontier is something researchers call artificial general intelligence, or AGI, machines that can match or exceed human thinking across all domains, not just specific tasks. Experts are divided on when or if we'll achieve this. Some say we're decades away. Others believe the fundamental breakthroughs have already happened, and we're just scaling up. What's certain is that the line between tool and collaborator is blurring. Future robots won't just be things we use, they'll be entities we work with. The most optimistic view is that thinking machines will become our partners in solving humanity's biggest challenges: climate change, disease, poverty. With their computational power and our human wisdom, perhaps we could achieve more together than either could alone. The conclusion. When I look at these thinking machines, I can't help but feel we're witnessing something historic. For all of human history, we've been the only thinking entities on this planet. That era may be coming to an end. Is that scary? Maybe a little. Profound change always is, but it's also incredibly exciting. We're potentially creating new forms of intelligence that could help us see the world in ways we never imagined. The real question isn't whether machines can think, it's what we want them to think about. And that's something we need to decide together while we're still the smartest minds around. What do you think about these self-learning robots? Are you excited about the possibilities or concerned about the risks? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this mind-blowing, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the technologies shaping our future. Until next time, keep thinking big.